مرحبا بكم مشاهدينا في حوارات السياق. كشفت شبكة سينان الأمريكية أن إدارة الرئيس جو بايدن قررت حجب 130 مليون دولار من المساعدات العسكرية المخصصة لمصر بعد عدم امتثال القاهرة لشروط حقوق الإنسان التي وضعتها الخارجية الأمريكية. عموما المزيد من المتابعة حول هذا الملف تنضم إلينا سيمون ليدين، نائبة مساعد وزير الدفاع الأمريكية السابقة لشؤون الشرق الأوسط. سيدة سيمون، مرحبا بك معنا.
Thank you for having me.
كيف تصفين القرار الأمريكي بوقف المعونة العسكرية عن مصر؟
Well, I think this is another and a very unfortunate series of events, but I believe this is even more serious in a way because we had seen the Biden administration step back a bit from its original position of demanding a focus on human rights from the Al-Sisi government, and unfortunately, despite many areas of progress for the Al-Sisi government and the very important peace that they brokered between Israel and Hamas over the summer, still the Biden administration decided to move forward with this decision. And I think that we will see in the coming months and years what a mistake that was, and how it has the deep potential for pushing Egypt farther away from the United States. I think, which is not what anybody wants.
بعد عام اتخذت إدارة بايدن قرارها. باعتقادك كيف تقيس إدارة بايدن تطورات ملف حقوق الإنسان بمصر عبر الناشطين الحقوقيين أم لها وسائل أخرى؟
Well, I think that's a very important question. I'm glad you asked it. I also wonder the same thing. If the measure for advancement in human rights is the Muslim Brotherhood, for example, that's not a good measure of any sort of advancement. So I'm sure that the U.S. government and the Biden administration has internal calculus of what to them means advancements in the area of human rights. But I think we've learned, the United States certainly has learned the hard way. We can't impose our views and opinions of human rights on other countries. People will do what they want. Different governments deal with different pressures and they'll handle them how they want. The question really is, how does the United States engage with them? And if we want to have any kind of influence on a potential improvement over, as you pointed out, a series of years and not just 1 year, we need to engage with them. We need to work with them. We need to maintain our influence. And one important way to do that is to maintain the military aid that we historically have provided for decades and which has maintained stability in the region.
باعتقادك هل قطع المعونة الأمريكية العسكرية عن مصر يدعم الديمقراطية؟
I think that's the fundamental question. I think cutting military aid to Egypt not only does it not advance democracy, but it actually makes Egypt say, okay, we can't rely on the United States as a partner anymore. We still have all of these threats internally and externally. We still need military aid, so we'll just have to go somewhere else. And so far, we've seen them, buying more products, military material from the French, but we could see them now going to buy more products from the Russians, for example. The Russians, I don't think, have a focus on human rights, I will say gently. So I don't see how that is beneficial in the long term to advancing the cause of human rights in Egypt.
عندما تسمح الولايات المتحدة لحليف مثل كوريا الجنوبية بالإفراج عن أموال إيران المجمدة، إيران المعروفة بسجلها الحقوقي السيء، ألا ترين تناقضا هنا في السياسة الخارجية الأمريكية؟
Yes, I think the South Korea example is a great example. I think Afghanistan is another great example. If the United States cares so much about human rights, how have we and why have we abandoned all of our partners in Afghanistan, the women, the civil society, education of women, ability of women to work? I mean, the list goes on and on of what we have abandoned in Afghanistan, on specifically on the human rights side of things. So it's hard to imagine what the Biden administration thinks, what sort of standing it has in the area of human rights to make demands of other countries at this time. I think they have a very poor and frankly very embarrassing record of human rights, and it's a little bit confusing as we try to understand how they think they can tell another country what to do when their own record is so abysmal.
مصر في الواقع حليف خارج الناتو للولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. ما قيمة هذه التسميات والمكانات التي تمنحها الولايات المتحدة بعد وقف المساعدات العسكرية عن القاهرة؟
I think that's a really key point. There's not, I think the value in non-NATO ally status, I mean, when they released the press release of we're doing this with Qatar, Qatar's now a non-NATO ally, they released like a number of bullet points as well about what that means in terms of the speed with which the US can provide military aid to the country, and the speed with which certain decisions can be made. It speeds up a lot of the processes on the kind of military defense procurement side of things. But at the end of the day, there's still the decisions that need to be made. And as we see with Egypt, the administration can still decide yes or no on anything. And in the case of Egypt, obviously they've decided no. But I don't think that fundamentally it's not the same as a NATO ally. It doesn't promise anything. It just other than a special look and potential speeding up of processes. So I think it's more in a like more for public consumption, that the US puts a stamp on a country and says, this is an important country to us. It's not a formal treaty or anything like that, but it's a stamp. It's like a brand, like we approve you, you have our non-NATO ally status. And I know for Qatar has been looking and hoping for this for quite a long time. But I think it does raise a question. Does the Biden administration at least view Qatar as on the same level as Egypt, which I would argue should not be the case at all, and actually would be quite concerning if that was to be the case.
مصر قدمت في الفترة الأخيرة مجموعة من المشروعات التي تدعم حقوق الإنسان، مثل مبادرة حياة كريمة التي تحسن حياة الملايين من البشر. لماذا لا تؤخذ هذه الخطوات الإيجابية في الاعتبار؟
I think primarily it's because they're not related to this bullet-pointed list of things that the Biden administration says it cares about. So while the Sisi administration, the Sisi government is working on improving the lives of Egyptians in many ways, they're stuck on these number of prisoners that are in the prison. We don't even know their names. I know there was a list that some members of Congress put forward. And I think part of the issue is the pressure that Congress has put on the Biden administration, with some Democrat members of Congress on the far left side, but the progressive members have put forward a list of prisoners. The list is classified, so it's not out in the public. And I don't know who those people are, but they're demanding their release. They're demanding information about them. I mean, for all we know, they could all be, members of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is an existential threat to the Al-Sisi government, as we all know. Any of us who have actually looked at the, short-term history of Egypt in the past 10, 15 years, it's very clear why there's this tension with the Muslim Brotherhood and why these people are imprisoned. So if indeed they are members of the Muslim Brotherhood. So there's this tension right now between Congress, between the administration, and between some of our partners and allies. And I think right now there's really nothing. I know the Republican Party in the United States feels differently about this. I know Senator Cruz from Texas has been very forward-leaning about the importance of our relationship with Egypt. And I know a number of members are looking forward to the elections that are coming up here in the fall and hoping that things, to the extent that they can apply a different sort of pressure to change the narrative here and to change the direction that things are going, I know that they're eager to start to do that soon. Hopefully that will help, but I think in the near term, I'm quite concerned about the direction that our policy is headed in.
شكرا سيمون ليدين، نائبة مساعد وزير الدفاع الأمريكية السابقة لشؤون الشرق الأوسط.
Thank you.
مشاهدينا شكرا على طيب المتابعة، إلى الملتقى.